welcome back to the channel, everyone. Boy, oh boy, has it been a minute since I put out a full review, but don't worry, I'm still here. If you follow my channel, you see that I typically put out a YouTube short after I watch a movie, but I definitely want to try to get back into the main channel and get more reviews out. So I know I've said that in the past. I'm just a busy person, but I want to push myself to get better, do a lot more reviews. But I want to dive into Joker 2, now in theaters. This is the hot topic. A lot of conversations around this. A lot of negative conversations around this. Reading a lot about people leaving the movie theater, not really realizing this was a musical, didn't know what to expect. A lot of people not happy with the ending, which is really fascinating because I quite enjoyed this movie. I really appreciate what they were going for, what they did. Does everything work? Absolutely not. I do have some issues with this movie, and we'll get into that. But with the ending and how I was taking everything in and the viewpoint that I was going into this movie with, everything just kind of worked for me. So I definitely want to get into that. I will do my absolute best to keep this as spoiler free as possible, but I do want to get into the ending and a few things. I'll try to save that to the end. So if you have not seen this yet, please go to the movie theater, check it out, come back to the channel, watch the full review, we'll get into things. So if you're new here, my name's Luke. I love talking about movies. As you can see from the background, I am a fan of Batman, that whole world. So let's get into Joker, Folie à Deux. So this is the follow-up to the 2019 movie Joker, directed by Todd Phillips. Joaquin Phoenix is coming back as Arthur Fleck, aka Joker. We also have Lady Gaga coming in as Lee Quinzel, mostly referenced as Lee, even though they do mention that this is Harley Quinn from the comic series. And then I want to give a couple shout outs, mainly because I just finished watching the new season of Industry, but we have Harry Lottie coming in as Harvey Dent. We also have Ken Leung coming in as Dr. Victor Liu. Bit of a smaller road than Harvey Dent, of course, but I just thought it was funny to see almost like an Industry reunion going into this. Alright, so this movie is the follow-up, like I said. This takes place years after the events from the first one, where we had Arthur Fleck, who is someone just struggling with trying to basically find their purpose in life. They have a medical condition which causes them to laugh at random times, and they're setting on this path where they just want to bring joy and happiness to everyone. And this movie, or at least that movie, really dived into the psychological elements of Arthur and what he's going through, what his childhood was like, what his upbringing was, which really led to events that just had him snap, taking on this persona of the Joker, killing. They really focused on 5 people, but he actually kills 6 people in that movie, and eventually just ends up in Arkham Asylum. But Joker was a $1 billion blockbuster, won some awards. I mean, it was a bold take to go into this world of Joker, which historically has been a very unknown figure in the Batman universe. It is like Batman's arch nemesis, but when it comes to the background, the historical stories around the Joker, there's not really much there. It's always meant to be this mysterious figure. So having Todd Phillips wanting to take on and kind of give more of a story into this is really fascinating. The only other movie where we kind of get somewhat of a background into an actual person connected with the Joker was Tim Burton's Batman film, where Joker is played by Jack Nicholson. That's a whole nother subject. I mean, you get a few moments of this. The Killing Joke is another reference, a book made into a movie where you get a little bit more of a backstory on Joker, and Todd Phillips' movie does somewhat lean onto The Killing Joke. But let's go into this sequel because it is a pretty bold take. The marketing, not as much really focused on this, but yes, Joker Part 2 is a musical. It is very much a love story between Harley and Joker. We do get to meet Lee pretty early on in the movie, and they just instantly form this connection. And we follow a bit of a mixed bag or a mixed story in terms of their relationship versus what Arthur's going through, because a lot of this movie is split pretty much between their relationship and Arthur's court case. So this is like part courtroom drama, part musical love story, and certain things don't really go that well together, but some things I thought did work pretty well. So I kind of want to break this up into a few things. So let's start with the musical part of it. I thought that was definitely the boldest take. I think this is where most people are falling off with this, not really knowing it's a musical, not really caring that it's a musical, but it's okay. I thought a lot of the early songs and setup for this aspect of it being a musical worked for me. I was enjoying what they were going for. The problem I had is, as you get into it, where the songs come into play, the majority of the songs pretty much all sound and feel the same, so it becomes this repetitive thing and really slows the pacing of this movie down. It does add this dragginess to it where I could see a lot of people getting bored by it, kind of wanting things to pick up, get more time with Arthur and what's going on in his world. But there are times where it does, I think, work and helps kind of add to the movie. But I think, I don't know, it's very heavy referencing a particular older movie, so you get a lot of inspiration from that. Especially with the Joker Part 1, it is very heavy on like Scorsese movies. This one a little bit different. So see a lot of people questioning, like, was that the best call? I thought it was fine. I just wish they would have kind of brought in more original songs or switched it up so it didn't feel as repetitive in nature and just drag the pacing down. Going into Arthur Fleck, we have Joaquin Phoenix coming back, giving a really, really solid performance. Really just putting us all into this character, especially when you get into the court drama piece of it, when he kind of takes a little bit more ownership there. He's putting a lot of flair and personality into it. There are some pretty intense scenes, especially with Puddles, who is someone from the first movie. Essentially, like, a lot of the whole like courtroom drama, the bulk of it is characters that we see in the first movie coming back to testify against those events. We do get some new characters, as I mentioned earlier on. But in a way, I saw someone mention this, and I would slightly agree. It almost feels like the season finale of Seinfeld, where they're going through their little court drama and some things that happen in that episode. So you do get that vibe from it, but I liked it, and I'm a big Seinfeld fan. But moments that I really liked with Arthur are just when he gets back into his Joker element and the inappropriate laughing, just as he's sitting there listening to all these witnesses and watching the jury, and as comments are made, just he makes these motions and smirks and things on his face that just had me like laughing at, you know, just him being so much into that character. And there are moments we'll get into that are getting a little bit more spoilery. I'll talk later on, where I do see a lot of people kind of questioning or getting I don't know if they're getting so much confused, but it's the moments I think where people are getting frustrated with the movie, and I can see that, but we'll go into that later. So let's go into Lee Quinzel, which is another big character in this movie, portrayed by Lady Gaga, but this is Philip's take on Harley Quinn, and there are things that I liked and things that I did not like with Harley Quinn. The one thing I really appreciated is that they did stick with Harley Quinn's background as a trained psychiatrist. This is how I've always known Harley, being someone that has wanted to professionally study the Joker to really crack into that person and understand what makes the Joker tick. And someone that's being trained as a psychiatrist and really knowing how the mind works, Harley's been one that always kind of falls trap into the Joker and never really crack the Joker, but has this obsession over the Joker and just wants to always be with the Joker and mimic the Joker. And we get a lot of those elements in this movie, but there are some decisions that I didn't quite agree with. A couple of moments that happen but fall off very quickly. They don't really go into these things further. Now I say that, but after I watched this movie and thought about it, I can kind of see like what they were probably trying to do. I don't want to give these away because they are spoilers, but I will talk about those at the end. And just the character of Harley in this felt slightly, different. I know they're not going to match to the comics as, line by line, word by word, but I did get a different feel of this version of Harley where it felt more like someone that is just basically very well off, comes from a very wealthy family, has a good education. Maybe they're just bored with life and looking for something to kind of spark excitement. Maybe this person actually does have a weird fetish with clowns. I don't really know fully what I think there with this character. I want to go back and rewatch this movie and maybe focus a little bit more on Lee and kind of try to get more insight into how I think this character actually is. But I thought Lady Gaga did a okay job, definitely bringing in her talents as a musician. But we do get an interesting take on Harley Quinn, though I don't quite agree with everything that was happening here. Now, when it comes to Joker and Harley together, I wasn't entirely on board with some decisions they made with their relationship and how far they took it. Again, that will go into spoilers, but I'll talk about that more at the end. And that is really the musical aspect of this. So much of the musical is really going into their relationship. It does dive into themes of the movie of, wanting to be in the spotlight. There is a reference that because this sequel takes place a few years ahead of time, someone's already basically created a movie of those events, which Harley mentioned she's watched it a lot of times, and that's what's drawn her to wanting to meet the Joker, to be with Joker, Arthur. And clearly you can see like that has a big impact on Gotham. Some other notable things that I really enjoyed was just the setting of Arkham Asylum. Very gritty, very dirty. You spend a lot of time with Arthur and the guards there, their relationship, what goes on, what you see, what people don't see, the behind the scenes stuff. There's moments where they show things, and I'm sure it's meant to left you as a viewer questioning what really happens, though I do wish they could have gone a little bit deeper into some things. Would have been nice. But I think Gotham, the setting, bringing in other characters, especially like Harvey Dent, I thought that was really fun. It really builds into this world that most of us already know and are familiar with. And just everything from like bringing in like those unsettling tones, music, moments from the first one. I thought they really did a good job of bringing that in here. And then the last thing, of course, is the ending. The ending is going to have a lot of people divided. That's really where I've been seeing the frustration online, where people are just, after the ending, they just kind of give up on this. And I get their viewpoints, but I want to go into mine here in a little bit, because I actually really like the ending. And I think it really concludes with what Phillips was going for, really goes into what I thought the first one goes for. And then we can go into that, because it does bring up, the whole point of this brings up like, was the sequel really worth it? Did this movie need a sequel? Probably not, though again, I appreciate their bold attempts and what they're going for. But all in all, I think if you just watch the first Joker with how that concludes, I think that is enough for this story of the Joker. So all in all, I would give Joker Part 2 a B+. I know Rotten Tomatoes is going pretty low, about 40%. I think it may have dipped below 40. I'm curious to see what like Cinema Score is going to give it, Banana Score, Banana Meter, like all of those. I wouldn't be surprised if they go pretty low, much lower than me. But again, like I said, I appreciate this movie and what they were trying to do, what they were going for. While not everything really worked for me, I think as a whole and like a lot of the messages and what happens at the end, I think really clicked. So with that being said, I want to go into some spoiler areas right now. So again, this is that warning. If you haven't watched this movie, please go watch the movie, come back, and then you can finish this review. So let's go into a couple of spoiler moments. One of which was the relationship with Arthur and Lee and how far they took it. I've never really known these characters in the comics to really go as far as having like a very intimate, physically intimate relationship where they do here. Maybe there is a story where they do that I'm not familiar with. If so, if someone knows of like a book or a comic that goes into that, please reference it down below. Would love to check it out. But I've always seen them as like they're together, but never really together in that way, because Joker's always been one to have a hold on Harley, and it's almost like Joker, he has a care for her, it always seems, but he's always the puppeteer and always wants to be the center of attention and never let Harley take over in that way. And moments that we get in with Harley, especially that, I think really, these are the things that I had to really think about after watching the movie, because I think a lot of this is really around Harley's obsession with Joker. And while I think most people are going to see this as an obsession with Arthur, I think it's really truly obsession with Joker and what the Joker stands for and what Arthur kind of unlocked from the events of the first movie. And that's what sets that spark. That's what sets off the chaos that we see at the end with the killing of Bruce Wayne's parents, and just the cars blowing up in the fires and things like that, and just the things that Harley does throughout this movie in terms of chaos, and then what you learn about her character and where she's from. It does put a big question mark on what they were truly trying to go for there, but the more and more I thought of it, with Harley's background being a psychiatrist, I think it brings the question, was she truly just playing Arthur in terms of, was she pregnant? Was she not pregnant? What was she really looking for there? When Arthur kind of almost comes to some certain senses near the end where he just basically admits, like, these things happened, I did them, I didn't want to do them, but they happened. It's really focusing around like Arthur is just Arthur. He's just a troubled man who was coming to his realization that, those events happened. He wasn't in this fantasy. He's not the Joker. It's like things kind of come down to him on our level, and I think that's like the breaking point for Harley. It's not what she wanted. She wanted to be a part of that fantasy. She wanted to turn that fantasy into her reality and just live there. And I think that's where maybe confusion and things happen where people may not follow that, but that kind of leads into the ending that we get, where Arthur is back into Arkham Asylum. He's found guilty, though when they were going through the verdict, the building blows up and he has his chance to escape. And I think that, for me, was the key moment of his decision and what he did that really shone light on, like, where I think the first one left the question. And the whole point of, like, I think the first Joker movie was, is he the Joker, or is this all just in his head? Is this just a fantasy? There's a lot of little background clues that we get in the first movie really make it feel that this isn't a reality at all. This is in his head. This is just stuff that he's perceiving, that he believes is his reality, which lead to him killing the 6 people. And when he runs away, you would think that the classic Joker would take that opportunity to just flee, to basically hide, to get his safety, and then go back and cause more chaos. Because that is just typical Joker fashion. He always gets out of Arkham, he always just disappears, and then he's always coming back to cause chaos. That's just what he does. And he's in this moment where people are like all these people are fascinated with him, and they want him, I think, to cause more chaos. But Arthur is really just more of someone who's just been lonely, troubled. He's just so infatuated with Harley that he instantly wants to find her. That's where his mind is, and I think that's the moment where Harley realizes, like, you're not the Joker. You're just a guy that's troubled, that, you know, sparked this movement, but that's just gone at that point. He's basically just a man who now feels that he is loved, and he just wants to be a part of that and try to go start a family, start a life. And then this is where we get into the ending, where back in Arkham, he's got a visitor, he's on his way, and then another character follows him, which is one that, you know, I figured something like this would happen, because you do see this character basically like keeping his eye on Arthur through like the whole movie. Arthur's relationship with the inmates changes quite a bit because, you know, they're all drugged. So like through a lot of, you know, the first third of the movie, he's not his normal self, but when he kind of goes back into that fantasy world, everyone wants to basically protect him and be a part of that fantasy. But there's always this one character that always has that question mark of like, you know, are you really this Joker person that you say you are? And then we get to the ending where Joker's confronted by this guy, and he basically calls him out for giving up, not really running away, not really sticking to this Joker that he said he was, and kills him. And then we see a moment where this guy is just laughing uncontrollably. He takes his blade and he carves a smile on his face as the movie ends. Now, this is where I just really, really love it. And I guess I can see different ways of where people probably don't like it, especially if you're going into this believing that like Arthur is the Joker, and like, why would you just kill the Joker? Because then nothing would make sense. But I think what I appreciate with this is like, if you really look into the essence of Joker, the character of Joker, the stories around Joker, we've never known who the Joker is. We've never known like where the Joker comes from, really what makes the Joker do the things that he does. And so I think this really shines that light and really kind of concludes the story from the first movie that no, like Arthur was never the Joker. Like Arthur was Arthur. He was just a very troubled, hurt man that needed a lot of help, that happened to spark this movement that kind of awakened Gotham City. And maybe this other person is the Joker, maybe it's not. You know, you can go into, there's all of these different variations of the Joker. Could this have just simply been a nod to Heath Ledger's version? Maybe. You know, if you look at all the actors that have portrayed Joker through all of the content that we have access to, all the different Batman movies, the series, the voice actors, all of that, there's all these different portrayals of Joker. So I really appreciated that, because it really concluded that of like, you know, we still don't know that much about the Joker. We don't know where this person comes from, what makes them tick, what makes them do what they do. And I just really like the ending. I just like how they concluded this. So, like I've said in this review, there are a lot of moments that I couldn't quite get on board with, agree with, but I think as a whole and what they were trying to do with this character, with the study of the Joker and how they ended it, and from my viewpoint of like how I've always viewed the Joker character through like the comic series, the animated series, the movies, etc., this really hit for me. Really worked. It's one I'll revisit again for sure. Hopefully there will be a version that has a lot of like moments that we saw in trailers that they bring into the movie, because there are a lot of moments with Joker and Harley that we didn't get that we see in trailers. So I'm curious why they may have cut those out. But all in all, that's my take on Joker Folie à Deux, or Joker Part 2, however you want to call it. Let me know what you think. Would love to know your thoughts in the comments. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you know? And even with my viewpoint on this, I could be entirely wrong. You know, maybe the writers and director were trying to go in a whole different direction, and maybe they'll go public about that and say like, well, if you thought this, you're wrong. Who knows? But again, that's why I like movies, because we can all like pull something different, especially movies like this, But if you disagree or thought something else, would love to know your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep it nice. Let's not get into a huge debate, but would love to know your thoughts and just chat with you. Or you can just say hi. Would love to say hi from anyone that visits this channel. So thank you so much for checking this out. I do hope I can get back to more regular reviews. I do miss this. Something I want to get back into doing. But yeah, thanks so much for stopping by, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.